Yahtzee, we are live. I see in the chat that got some folks here. Thank you guys for coming on. 619 OTA and Dustin and what is it, Supera.1? You've been asking a bunch of questions. So let's preface this whole thing is that Neil and I were both at the hearing, and we both saw that there's been a bunch of questions about this deeper ban and wanted to go through and just help clear up the answers to those questions. This is not like the second part of the hearing. This is not a prosecution or anything. This is just helping the Helium community understand what happened. Is that there are some parts of this that are pretty basic, and some parts that are a little bit more complicated and are worth diving into. So sweet. Thanks for coming on. Neil, what's
Hey,
going on, dog?
yeah, not bad, not bad. Busy couple of days, isn't it? So,
Crazy, yeah. Yeah, we had. So the hearing was on, today is Monday, April 11th. The hearing was Thursday. And then I think the MOC, or the Manufacturing Oversight Committee, our decision was on Friday morning. We made it, and then it got released, I think, Friday afternoon. So yeah, pretty crazy. I think the single biggest question we're gonna have is what happened to your green
was
hair? But
I had an accident with a trimmer and I shaved it too short. And I've got a wedding next week, and I thought I'd look, semi-normal for that. But I will be going back to green.
okay, good. Yeah, we'll look forward to the return to green. Okay, so if you guys have questions in the comments, we'll get to them. But Neil and I have we have a shared document that we've just been gathering the questions that we've seen on YouTube and Twitter and the rest of it, and we'll just go through and answer those. So we'll start off with what are the facts and how did you find them? And I'm going to share my screen so that you guys can see these first questions, and then B, we'll just kind of jump through this as we go. So here's this first piece, and this is all public information. Everything that we're going to be talking about today is public. So the facts are that Deeper started onboarding hotspots November 22nd, 2021. They added a total of just under 10,000, so 9,965 as of April 4th, which is, 7 days ago. And all but 8 of those almost 10,000 hotspots have never witnessed another hotspot. And then the first one to witness it was March 18th. So what is that? November, December, January, February, March, 4 or 5 months after they started onboarding was when the first hotspot witnessed or had POC, proof of coverage activity, with another hotspot. That's pretty darn unusual. So I think we'll start with that. Neil, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I suppose I should preface this with people to say that, I'm on the POC security committee and you're on the MOC, obviously. So
Yep.
we've both taken action. In that process, I was the prosecutor and you were the judge, obviously, just so people know that. But,
Yeah.
I don't think I'm against them for no unknown reason, obviously. But yeah, when you start seeing that many hotspots that large percentage of hotspots from a manufacturer gaming and like that, you just know something funny's going on. And it's really important to preface this with the very first units that were on the network from Deeper were found to be gaming. So this wasn't just a distributor going haywire. This was the very first ones. So it's unbelievable, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and I see in the chat there's questions. Has Deeper been banned from Helium? Yeah, they've been banned, and this is kind of one of the details that it's worth explaining. Is the only thing that can be done to a manufacturer is you can't go back and turn off hotspots in retrospect. No one can come on and turn off my hotspot or my first hotspot that I put on, or your hotspot or anything. Like once they're on the chain, they're on. Nobody can stop them, and that's part of this decentralization piece. Neil? Am I getting that right? I want to make sure I'm. Yeah.
Yeah. Once they're on the chain, they're on the chain. I mean, they could be added to the deny list, but they can never be taken off, and no one can ever change that. So it's blockchain.
Yep. Yeah, and that's a super cool part. That's also this decentralized part is that there's no one centralized authority that can go in and pull them off. The only thing that a centralized piece can do, and in this case, the centralized entity is the MOC, which I'm on, the Manufacturing Oversight Committee. And our job in general is to make sure that it looks like a manufacturer can produce hotspots and also can support those hotspots. That's all the MOC really does. And so when Deeper came in, looked like they could. They've got a really good technology as far as I can tell, as far as this VPN stuff. Neil, you've got one of the little Picos, I think.
Yeah, I got one on my desk. I mean,
Yeah.
I quite like it. To be fair to Deeper, this thing is really well built and the UX is really nice. But
Yep.
yeah, they just done what they've done, obviously. So
Yep. So it looked like they could do it. So the only thing that can happen, like once they start being allowed to onboard hotspots, is the MOC can vote, basically at the direction of the community, to stop them from allowing, or to stop them from onboarding new hotspots. And so that's what has happened. So when you say is Deeper banned, is if you are if you're one of the 8 influencers that Deeper sent out hotspots to, and your hotspot is working and earning you something, and you're not gaming, there's nothing anyone can do to stop that. The only thing that can be done to stop it, as Neil said, is to put it on a deny list. And so that's a little bit of the nuance of kind of the banning piece. Cool. Looks like, Neil, you got a little echo. Oh, Motortech had a
yeah, I'm not
question.
sure.
What was the question that you were trying to ask a few times in the hearing but couldn't ask because you weren't the judge?
It actually got asked by Phoenix, and it was that of these 10,000 hotspots, a Chinese distributor was sent US units and EU units, and they were onboarded to the network. So it was just one of those things that it's so surprising that even though they had been sent American units, that they didn't check to see if they were were they in the country, were they with a distributor. You just
Yeah,
think they'd spot something like that.
yeah, and
Yeah, wasn't it? It was like something like 8,000 Chinese, and then 1,000 EU, and 1,000 something close to that. Anyway, so
yeah,
it was really hard to see, and I just wanted some clarification around that.
yeah. Okay, I think that answers that. I think we can kind of run through the chat questions, Neil. Like the whole, I always get sucked into like doing what I'm
Yeah,
supposed to be doing or what I've planned out, but really we want to do this as a chat thing. And one of the things I'm seeing is from Simon, and I'll see if I can fix the echo while this is happening. Have all the owners lost their money, and is there a way for another manufacturer to give them support?
see, normally I'd say yes. If you've got the hotspot, you could, in theory, run other software on it. But where this is a deeper add-on to the Pico or the Nano, I just don't think it's possible to support something like that. I mean, not unless you can flash the Pico. So
Right.
yeah,
Okay, and I'm seeing a WTF from Konstantinos. All right, and then the website says, and I think this is at the key of it. So manufacturers can get banned for selling to sketchy customers. I would say no. That's not the takeaway here. Is that manufacturers, and this is a great question. This is kind of at the core of I think why we wanted to do this live. Manufacturers are getting banned because the manufacturers are either doing institutional gaming or they are allowing and enabling institutional gaming. And so, Neil, if you want to talk through what institutional gaming means versus just one or two hotspots being used for gaming.
yeah. I mean, in the scale of things, it's gaming that's obviously being run or under the guises of the manufacturer. So, in this case, there was transactions linking these wallets that were gaming, sending funds to the maker key. So to say that they weren't, institutionally linked like that, well, that's the thing. You can't say that. But these were generally probably all in a warehouse somewhere. So institutional, large scale gaming. And the problem is with some of these manufacturers, they're the same people who can create keys. So if you try and deny all of them, they'll just bring more keys up and put them on. So it's really, really high level gaming that needs to be stopped. So a deny list just wouldn't do it. You would have to do what's been done and ban them from onboarding new hotspots. It's the only way.
Yeah.
But I mean,
And
it's been done before, hasn't it? With COTX, and
yeah.
things have been improved. They've improved their processes, and maybe Deeper could do that in a year. But for right now, it just didn't seem like they'd have the capacity to do that.
No, and I think their position on the hearing was, hey, we trusted our partner to do the right thing, and their partner didn't do the right thing. And so
Yeah, but as you heard in the hearing, they were saying they didn't have the manpower to make these hotspots or test these hotspots without that distribution partner. That distribution partner also paid them £1 million before the product was certified.
right.
So the mock hadn't even improved this thing, and they're already in bed with a distributor in terms for $1 million. So it was a very close relationship. I see it, and this may be wrong. This is just my personal view. That Deeper were the marketing company here, and that distributor was actually doing all the work to get this unit ready for Helium. They were the ones that understood it. So you know the companies can exist like that, but you just need to watch what they're doing, and they weren't doing that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's actually, I hadn't thought of what that might look like, but that seems like a reasonable explanation. I think during the hearing, one of the questions that we kept banging on about was how to deeper invest so much money and not know what was going on. But if that's the explanation, that makes sense, is that they're trusting this partner who is basically 100% cheating. And so deeper ends up looking really bad because they trusted the wrong person. Now, whether or not that is true, I don't know, but that seems pretty reasonable. Let's see. I know that one of you guys had a bunch of questions. Maybe I'll go back to those. Okay, so what are the facts? How'd you find them? What's institutional gaming? I think we've covered that. Here's another big one: is why didn't, and I saw a bunch of these, why didn't Helium warn Deeper prior to the ban? And this goes to I think to the heart of the problem, is that when a manufacturer comes in, they have an obligation. In fact, not just we think they have an obligation. They sign this document that is part of the HIP-19 process, and I think I can bring that up here. Stand by. Yep, and you may not be able to read this because it is pretty small. So only HIP-19, I'll read this blue stuff. Only HIP-19 approved manufacturers are granted the trusted privilege to add new hotspots to the Helium network. With this privilege, manufacturers are also entrusted with the responsibility to act ethically and with the proper internal processes to protect the integrity of the Helium network. So the kind of takeaway there is that even if Deeper doesn't understand blockchain, they still, because they're the ones with the onboarding keys, they have the responsibility. They have the responsibility to understand it. So they're kind of walking in after having signed this document and then not fulfilling that obligation.
But it's a simple fact of the matter, like, to manage updates on that many hotspots, to see how your product's working, you would have thought they would have had something in place to see it. And if they had something in place, they could have seen this gaming. They could have looked into it in more depth, and they should have proactively looked at this, and they just clearly didn't. So it got to such a bad stage that, in that hearing, they said the first they heard of it was when the deny list action happened. And I mean, that's months, wasn't it? Months and months that they didn't check them once to see or look why, nearly 10,000 hotspots were not getting to their customers or getting out there into the world.
Right. And I think that was another piece, is that only 8 of them ever, or some very small number, ever got to actual, not end users, but to, I don't know, like regular customers, right? The rest of them, they never shipped to actual, folks like you and me. And so all of those other hotspots were only talking to each other, and they weren't passing data. And this is covered in the hearing, but, the problem is that when the Helium network is designed to not just for gateways to communicate with each other, but to pass data. That's the purpose of the network, is to collect data from sensors and then, put that wherever it's supposed to go. And the Deeper hotspots never did that. So there's kind of all these pieces adding up to the Deeper hotspots were basically just pulling HNT out of the network, or providing no value and extracting value.
Exactly. And to Mac Banny's question in the chat, he was talking about, just because the transaction happened doesn't mean that that's the reason they ended up being banned. They were just witnessing their own hotspots. You have to understand how rare that is. That a Deeper only heard another Deeper. They didn't hear any other makes apart from 8 hotspots, 8 out of 10,000. So it wasn't just the transactions; it was a compounding set of reasons that have led to this.
Right.
Unbelievable.
And that was, if I remember right from Evan's testimony, that was it was 3 standard deviations, or was it 4? I think it's
something like that, yeah.
Right, and so let's jump into that. And this is a little bit out of my wheelhouse. If Jeremy Cooper's watching, he's just going to be laughing because math to him is super easy. But let's talk about what a standard deviation is. And in fact, I pulled something up to help me out here. Is if we look at this graph on the right, is that the standard deviation is how far off from the normal, like a statistic or a number is. And if we look at these pieces here, so most of your numbers that you get in any curve, so like the number of hotspots that are witnessing, most of them will be in this green, a couple of them will be in this blue, and then this is the third standard deviation. There's like this tiny amount out here that are way out on the edge. And so the point of the prosecutors was that if you just look at the data, and that's it, is that what is happening is so far outside the norm that it is super unlikely to be any other reason except gaming. That's kind of my layman's takeaway. That's probably wrong in some detail, but
Yeah, cheers to Modo Tech there. He says it was four off, so
four.
that's
Okay,
quite unbelievable. Yeah.
so basically off of this chart that we're looking at, right? If this is our standard deviation chart, yeah. So I think that's the next piece. What's the other question? This next question I've got. Let's Neil, let's hammer on this a little bit more because I think this is pretty important. Is why didn't Helium warn deeper, right? So you think in a normal circumstance with the centralized company that they see some big customer, let's say, coming on and obviously gaming, they would reach out to them and their legal team would say, hey, it looks like you're, hotspots are gaming. We're going to pull you off if you don't do X, Y, and Z. Can you walk through why that wouldn't happen on the Helium network?
I mean, in a sense, for me, the most important thing to rely on there is Helium Nova Inc. Sorry,
Yeah,
Nova.
yeah. Thank you.
Are a centralized company. The one company. We shouldn't rely on them to do everything for the network. It's about this action against Deeper was bought by the community. To be clear, this wasn't bought by Helium. This is bought by the community doing the research on it. So just because we've done one now with Deeper, we can target other ones later. I've seen some names come up in chat like Hummingbird and Panther X. They can all be targets, and it's us. It's our job to police that. It's not Helium's job to do it. They've been focused for the longest times on making the network work and trying to get this like hotspot upgrade going. That's just going to fix the network in such an unbelievable way. We just don't want to divert their attention away from that, and we just can't rely on them for everything. I want to see a world where Helium aren't the only contributor to this blockchain, that we have a number of companies that are doing it. And it's the same thing with like Hit 40, the deny list. Lots of companies doing the research, lots of people creating lists, securing the network as a whole, bringing up new ideas to improve POC going forward. We
Yep.
just can't expect one company to do all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm seeing the chat blow up with all kinds of questions. Yeah, I think this is this super key point is that it's on us. It's on all of us, whether you're, me or Neil or you, any of the folks in the chat. It's on us to make this network work and for it to be healthy. And it's just a really different way of thinking about interacting with the world. We're used to having an Amazon or a Nike or a company that we can go to complain to. But in this case,
Yeah,
the power of this is it's our ecosystem to build and manage and shape as we want. And it takes effort and expertise.
yeah.
Let's see. Mototech's asking, can Helium do something similar with this exchange? Like, can we get the money back? I think can we get the HNT back?
No, there's no way to. I mean, I would hate a blockchain that has a method for a centralized entity to control my wallet. That's not decentralized. That's not what blockchain's about. Um, yeah, and it's just I know Joey at the end of the video said that he would like to see Deeper pay the money back, but it's just not something we can ask them to do. They could if they want to save grace and save a bit of face. It would definitely be something I'd recommend for them to do. Burn it, just burn it all and burn it all to DC, and it would be great to see. But it's just not possible to force that kind of action. The problem is although it sounds good against this one company, can you imagine someone being able to just take funds out of your wallet and change that amount? It's just not. It's not blockchain. It's not decentralized. It's not something that will ever be added to a blockchain project generally.
Yep. Yeah. Let's see. Why aren't other manufacturers getting banned? This is one of the other questions that came up. And so I see you guys are saying, I'm reading in the comments about Panther X, Hummingbird. I'm sure there was another one. And why didn't
Yeah, I mean,
Codex get banned? Or Codex, whatever. Codex, yeah.
the biggest one there is that when the deeper investigation happened, there was some quite good information that showed Hummingbird were in a worse position than Deeper were. So I can't comment on it. I haven't gone through it, but they weren't singled out. Deeper were not singled out. That's one comment that I've seen from Eric was saying that Deeper were singled out. They weren't. They were just the first. So well, after COTX, that's the first time where there was proof that a manufacturer had actually gamed.
Yep.
This is the second time it's happened, and if we have any other proof again, the same thing will happen.
Yeah. And I see Scott had said, why wasn't Codex banned? They were banned.
They were, yeah. What was it? They had quite a long suspension date, and then even then, when they came back, they were managed, micromanaged about onboarding new hotspots, weren't they? To
Yeah.
germs probably, so frustrated with doing that process. It's unbelievable.
It was a
It was
tough
all on
thing.
his back to bring him back. But
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So I think this is, I mean, it's kind of cool news is that we, the community, whether you're like me and you're super non-technical, or you're Neil and you're pretty technical, you're one of the other guys and you are ultra technical, it's on us to police this. And so we get to go and say, hey, I think there's something wrong. Let me prove it with data, and then bring that data to the MOC. And then the MOC will listen to it and say, like, okay, that seems reasonable, and kind of follow the data is the deal.
I think a lot of it as well is that, with a mock, if Deeper had shown ability and remorse and technical ability to be able to move it on, maybe the ban wouldn't have been as long. But it was quite clear, right, that it was at a level that was just not responsible to let them off easily. It had to be a long time, right?
No,
Because
I mean,
COTX ban was smaller, wasn't it? So
I think so. I don't remember the time. I should know that, but I don't have a I don't have a memory like Jeremy. Basically,
yeah,
reads Library of
Jeremy's in
Congress.
chat.
Is
He
he
says
okay?
COTX were banned. They were given a 1 year suspension, but it was reduced to 6 months for other factors. So
Check.
you know, I mean, I talked to COTX. We're talking about trackers and hotspots and things with them. So they're really nice, but yeah, they seem to have cleaned up their act. They're doing the right thing. But Deeper just didn't seem like they had the ability. At the end of the video, a lot of people have noted that when asked about light hotspots, they said, "Well, it is already light. It's USB." And that just kind of shows you the level of understanding here.
Yeah,
That it's just a bad news to let them off easily.
yeah. It's that players have to be held responsible for their actions, and even if they are not the specific people who did the action, I don't expect the marketing guy to know blockchain, right? You don't expect me to know blockchain. I just kind of help explain it or bring people on who can explain it. But at the end of the day, somebody at a company who's making hotspots has to understand it, and if they don't, it's not in the best interest of the network to let that company continue to onboard hotspots. So
Yes, who was saying it? You know, if they did repay all of those funds, would we let them back on? I mean, it would go a long way to demonstrate that they're doing the right thing by doing that, wouldn't it? But even then, they would need to demonstrate that they've actually got proactive management and monitoring for all of their hotspots. And even then, they still have to wait 6 months or longer. But it is possible. But it's in deepest court to do the right thing, right?
yeah, yeah. All right, Luis Gomez. What did the distributor, not Deeper, but the one who is doing the gaming, say about all this? I don't think they've said anything. I haven't heard anything.
No, no, I haven't heard anything.
I
I
think
did.
they probably
I
just
did
said
hear
thanks
some
for the.
rumors.
Go ahead.
I did hear some rumors about that company and something about gold shell miners and some sort of rug pull that's been done before. So I don't
Okay.
think they're going to say anything.
Nobody likes hearing it, but do your own research. Let's see, Mac Ben. There's a bunch of good questions in the chat, guys. Thank you guys for jumping in with these things. Let's see, Mac Ben. Witnessing their own miners. Does this indicate a Helium software compromise to manipulate normal POC activity, or that the miners were kept in an excluded facility and only saw each other? I don't know how they cheated. The second thing is probably the easiest. So if you imagine what's happening is that Deeper has this partner who is basically a cheating partner. That cheating partner has no incentive to ship these hotspots anywhere if they're going to cheat. I mean, I'm just thinking through if I was cheating and I didn't want to spend any money on shipping boxes to places where I'm not going to set them up, properly anyway. I just put them all in a warehouse, plug them in, and fire them up. Now, maybe that's not how they did it, but I don't think
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
it's hard to say, isn't it? I mean, the easiest way is they put them all in a warehouse, like you say, with attenuators and make them talk to each other, and that's just a sign. If there was any legitimate placements there, the odd witness would have crept in, or the odd beacon would have been heard by another hotspot. Just nothing
Yeah.
at all. That just indicates that they are all in a room locked away, far from anything else that would have done that. Laura's really resilient. I get witnesses and directions that I would never think I would because the building's blocked. Blocking the
Yeah.
signal
Yeah,
and
like a
concrete,
signal.
and then they go through it, and you get one, and you're like, wow, how the hell has it gone through that much stuff? But to not have anything or any data at all just sounds like it's locked in one place. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you'd think that they'd hire or look at this and be like, why don't we just fire some data packets through the warehouse and let all these things, at least make it look a little bit more realistic. But but they didn't. Okay, let's see. Helium Co. Can I don't know how you get the name Helium Co. Maybe you just put it on and decide that you're going to do that. Can gamers that mine thousands of HNT continue gaming using validators hosted by their illegal gains?
No, not really. I mean, so the thing about validators is you would have to control a large proportion of validators to do that. So you're talking about institutional gaming at a level where it would be too expensive to do. And to make a real impact, you would have to spend so much on staking and lockup that it's just nearly impossible to do. Um, and even then, the only validators that matter at the time are in consensus, so that changes all the time. So
Yeah,
to have control of the majority of validators in consensus is near impossible without spending a ridiculous sum of money.
yep.
There's 3,500 validators or thereabouts, and they
Each
all have
staking.
staked 10,000 HNT. So you would need to control the majority of that to do anything with a validator to make it game.
There's probably better ways to spend your money. I mean, I
Yeah,
guess what
yeah,
they
much.
could do is they've got like 76,000 HNT. They could run 7 validators. Um,
Seven, yeah, 7 out of 3,500 is not going to make a dent in.
no,
With validators that you could possibly foresee, a world where right back in the day when hotspots did consensus, I managed to get 2 hotspots in the same consensus. But the chances of that happening are unbelievable. So,
yeah,
to make a difference for 7 validators is just not going to happen.
no, you'd be earning more on the money you stole. And I think that's an interesting question. Is that they could, the gamers could take the 76,000. They could spin up 10 validators, and they could earn money on. They could earn HNT on the stolen HNT. I don't think there's anything. I don't know. Is there like a deny list for validators where you could say, "Hey, that is stolen HNT, and we're not going to allow these validators on"? I don't know if that's possible or not, but that's about the only thing they could do with it. Gonzalo Gatica, whatever it is. If any, sorry, buddy, I don't mean to mispronounce your name. If any maker can spoof this easily, as you guys say, it means that Helium is in big trouble with lots to improve. No, no, I would not say this was an easy spoof, right? This took an institutional level of commitment to do. It took, as Deeper said, a couple $1 million to kind of get everything rolling. So this is not something that was easy, right? This was a bunch of let's say, smart and well-funded people. Maybe not with the morals that we have, but it was not an easy thing to do. This is not something that a couple kids can do in a garage. So, I mean, the bigger picture is Helium in big trouble? Gosh, I don't think so. If we look at the data out there, go ahead, Neil. What do you got?
It's such an insignificant portion of the network, isn't it? 10,000 hotspots. 650,000, 10,000 would be in bad,
Yeah,
I just, I'm not saying that the chain's perfect or the system's perfect,
no,
but I'm taking part in making that better, and I think everyone needs to own this and help.
yeah,
If you've got methods that would improve this, or you think you have methods, talk about them. Come and join the conversation. Don't just sit there and go, oh well, this network's easy to game. Come
yeah.
be a part of that solution.
Yeah, no, it's not easy to game. And I think zooming way out, if we look at what is going on with Helium, they just got, or Nova, they just got another, what was it? 150. Like there is so much money getting thrown to them by super smart people. That's not a guarantee that they're going to win, but damn, that is some really strong data that people who have a ton of money and who are pretty darn smart are saying we think this company is going to win. So I think what we can see, and this might be the most useful thing, is that for the next couple of weeks, as we transition over to light hotspots, you're going to see crazy network turbulence. Your earnings are going to go down. They'll go up a little bit. They'll go down. You'll be really frustrated. We'll get onto validators. We'll have some problems with validators for sure because it's going to be a new system. But within a month or two, we should see things start to settle down and the network behave a little bit more in line with what we all want it to do. But is the
Yeah,
network
we're
in
old
trouble?
hats
Yeah.
at this, aren't we?
Yeah.
We saw this when validators got turned on.
Yep.
Do you remember the turbulence? It took a little while, but now you just don't even think about block time being bad generally.
Yeah.
It's just crazy difference. It's just takes a little bit to ramp up and get it all going. So I
Yeah.
think we're going to get the start of light hotspots today. It's today, so end of play today, isn't it?
I don't see how
Fingers
anything could
crossed.
possibly go wrong.
No, never, never.
Let's see. The webhead for Deeper, due to VPN and security issues for their day job, it should give people some pause providing a level of access Deeper devices are granted. That seems reasonable. I mean, I think, I don't know. I think if you're the most generous, you say that Deeper was overly trusting of this cheating company and they got taken in. I think that's the most generous way of looking at it. And then there are progressively less generous ways of working at it. So make your own decision there. No further comment from me on that one. Demetrius Adamidas. Hello, guys. Hey, Dimitri. If Deeper outsources network bits, my man. If Deeper outsources one aspect of the functionality to a third party and they don't have the technical ability to oversee that it's being implemented ethically, what else is being compromised? I think same kind of question. Yeah, totally. I think that's the problem. Andre, can a manufacturer block a specific hotspot based on the deny list from the network by pushing down firmware? Oh, that's an interesting question. I don't know. Maybe Neil, do you know?
Technically, it's possible. Legally, is it possible? I'm not sure there. So they probably wouldn't. I mean, you're messing with the customer's product, right? So I think there'd be big problems if they did things like that. Disabling clients' hardware. So it's just not something they do. I think.
You're right. So technically possible, but legally a problem. All right. 619 OTA. What do you think of Deeper's response to the MOC, saying the ban was unfair and telling people to hold on to their miners and complain to Helium to let them on board? I don't know.
Horrible,
I think
right?
I would. Yeah, I'd just say that. I mean, well, let's look at their response. Hang on, so that we're all looking at what we're supposed to be looking at over here or here. Yeah, the Deeper Network official announcement. There we go. Sorry, it's taking me a second. Okay. There's a couple things that they said in this actually that I wanted to dial in. Is they said once the spoofing was discovered, the distributor was contacted by the Deeper Network. That just didn't line up with the dates. Is that they were basically spoofing from the beginning, and anyone who could read the blockchain should have been able to see that. And so Deeper was relying on the deny list, which is a very kind of surface way of looking at things. And they, pardon the pun, they weren't looking deeper. So that was just like a weird thing to say. And it's banking on the general community not understanding how the system works, right? It's not actually what happened, or it's not actually a legitimate reason. Okay, hearing was held by the MOC. Decision was made to suspend Deeper Network's onboarding key for a minimum of 1 year. Here's the other thing, is that the Deeper Network and its community were punished for the actions of a distributor and their customers. And we already went through this on the document that Deeper signed, but Deeper is responsible for their actions. So it's not like the MOC punished them. It's that Deeper did this to themselves. We feel that decision is unfair to existing companies or to existing customers. I don't know. I got to be careful about what I say is like Nick Hawks versus MOC, but as Nick Hawks,
What do you want me to say? I can say anything.
Yeah, go for it.
I don't think it's unfair to existing customers. I think their behaviour was unfair to existing customers. It's not. If this was the manufacturer and it was the distributor, then we wouldn't have been in this situation. We could have just denied the hotspots, but it was clearly shown that the distributor and Deeper were one and the same. They were very intertwined, if not the same people. So that's why it's happened. So it's them putting that unfairness down on their end customers. And yeah, like someone said in the chat earlier, they're security experts. They've said that they're security experts. So, if they're running a VPN that's meant to be about security, are you saying that they can't do this for hotspots and notice this kind of pattern happening? So, yeah, it's them. It's their fault, And go for a refund.
I think it's get the refund, and they've been good. They've said that they'll refund any customer who bought a hotspot. So I think at least that's a reasonable step in the right direction. And I think they're like, I bought 10 of these Deeper Pico things. I spent my money on them. I trusted them back in whatever it was, December, when they were running some deal. And those things are just sitting there. I sent one to Neil. I think I sent one to someone else. Like, yeah, I feel kind of just as, I don't know, betrayed as the next guys. Like, man, we thought these guys were going to be awesome. And however it happened, they're part of this cheating ring.
But just to be clear, I like the Picos. I like the Deeper network. I like the idea of decentralized VPN. I think it has inherent security problems of running a VPN in your home. And if a company that can't monitor hotspots wants to run a VPN, I'd be very worried about what they're actually letting through and what kind of hacks are happening on their own network. Are they even checking it at all? It's been proven once that they haven't. It's the same thing happening with other products. So, got to
Yeah.
be really careful.
Yep. The other thing they said, and then we'll go on to the next question, was, let's see, this piece here. We're still discussing with the MOC regarding the possibility of onboarding. I haven't seen anything about this. I'm on the MOC. Doesn't mean that it's not happening, but I haven't seen any emails about that or any kind of conversation. So maybe they want to discuss, and they've discussed with someone else on the MOC. I'm not the only person on there, but I haven't seen anything. And the MOC's decision to suddenly suspend the maker key has affected thousands of users who purchased deeper network HNT miners.
Yeah, it kind of felt like they were sending out hotspots as soon as they know this Helium was coming up, just to make it look like, well, we started shipping them now. You've got to let us on, kind of thing. So playing the blame game here a little bit, not just owning up to it.
Yep.
Again, if they'd owned up to it and taken their part, it would maybe not have been as bad, but it was just clear.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I think if they'd come on and said like, "Hey, we trusted this person who cheated," and there's no guarantee that this would have gone this way, but if they'd said like, "Hey, we're going to take 76,000, whether we have to buy it ourselves and burn it or somehow donate it back to the community. We're going to refund every hotspot, and we would like to be suspended for 6 months and work closely with the Nova team to blah blah." I, as a judge, would have been like, "Well, okay." I mean, if little Timmy throws a rock and breaks someone's window, and then he comes up and he's like, "Hey, I threw the rock, I broke the window, I'll pay for it, I was bad." It's very different than if little Timmy throws a rock and breaks someone's window and runs away. Like, there's just two different outcomes.
If I make a mistake, I'm the first person to apologise for that mistake, lay out what happened about that problem, and work through it. This happened with me the other day. I published a video on my channel when I shouldn't have done. And I apologised. I said why I did it. I showed why I thought I had problems, and we talked about it, discussed it, and we've moved on. Carried on with that relationship, but there was none of that here. It was all, well, your deny list is confusing. This distributor's done everything wrong. This person's done this. It was none of it. It wasn't. We're sorry. This was our fault. We were not monitoring close enough. We weren't monitoring partners. We weren't monitoring hotspots.
Yeah.
I think it would have come out very different. Maybe a short of suspension if they'd have done things like that. But it was just none of it. It was we've done nothing wrong. This is all them.
Yeah. So, what are you gonna do? Let's see, Dimitri. Unrelated, but a very common question: will we be able to mine anything else on our full hotspots, as these will have excess computing power after turning into light hotspots? Neil, this is kind of teeing up for your spiel. Go for that.
I think it's possible. I really think with subDAOs that we can have other services running on these full hotspots. It's just we've lost the centralization of having a copy of the blockchain on every other hotspot. So why would we lose? Why would we lose that? But the whole aim of Bitcoin was to have a computer in everybody's house that was running a copy of blockchain.
Yep.
And we've gone from that to validators. So we've lost a lot of decentralization. But there's room for other services on there, and to keep that spirit alive. Even if it's running nodes for other networks and being paid for it, or maybe a subDAO on Helium for a VPN done properly, or things like that could be done. I think there's some people out there that are looking at doing that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's super exciting to see what comes down the pipe. All right, Mototech, my man. And I'd say I'm trying to get Mototech to let me tell his backstory, because it is radical and awesome, and it's like American dream stuff. He doesn't want to tell it yet. He's got his own reasons. I respect those reasons. That's awesome. But I just want you to know the dude is way more awesome than he even appears in person. And already he's pretty darn awesome. So I'll give you that little teaser. Very radical guy. Let's see. Seems like Deeper themselves didn't have the capability for Helium R&D, and they had to outsource it. How do you think that can be prevented during HIP-19 screening in the future? A super good question. This is something the MOC is discussing internally for sure, and I would love to hear community feedback on it. And that's kind of the thing, is that it's not just the MOC, it's not just a group of a couple folks. It's the entire community saying, hey, we all made this mistake together, right? Is that we all approved HIP-19 as our method for onboarding hotspots. We all approved this kind of MOC thing. We thought this was a good method. It's a pretty good method, but we can improve it. And here's how we can improve it. And so it's on us to kind of all write those improvements together, and then we can execute them. So
Yeah, loads of protocol changes will make it. I'd love to live in a world where AI just goes, picks up the game, and it stops it. But AI is a black box, and it's going to have false positives and problems just the same. And then people are going to work new ways out. When there's reward for doing something, there will always be people that are hacking it or gaming it. It's just always going to happen, and it's not that simple. If we could stop it right now, it would have been stopped already. It just takes time and development and lots of community effort to be put into this. So
yeah, yeah,
I'm a big fan of HIP 22. So HIP 22 is secure concentrators. So you would only have to buy the secure concentrator. The concentrator will only ever sign witness data that it hears physically. I'm a huge fan. The two boards that are being developed for that are both open source. So it just goes to show, community effort is moving this situation on. It's not Nova doing all the heavy lifting here. It's community
yeah.
that's making the difference.
And if that doesn't make sense to you, what Neil just said, it basically means you can buy this really small radio piece and build the rest of your hotspot. And it makes it so that, is if I'm understanding this right, Neil, is that the DIY program kind of comes back.
Yeah, exactly. So the LoRa card inside that hotspot, you
Mm-hmm.
would only have to purchase that, and that has the key and the secure element on it. It's got what's called secure boot, which checks the signature of the bootloader every time it loads up, so it can't be loaded with other information. So what Helium have always said is HIP 22 would add a root of trust to the data that thing's providing, so it would move it on where they couldn't witness stuff with it or share it and things. So it's just that is a whole new product. It's a whole new technology, so it just takes time.
To put in. Yeah, dig it. Let's see. I'm skipping over to Mac Banai. With the ban of these miners, are there any metrics on how much we've reduced known gaming on the network? And were these deeper miners a big chunk of them? I've got the first part of that question, Neil, and I'll let you take the rest of it. But deeper miners comprised 50% of the deny list. So of all of the hotspots from all of the manufacturers on the network that were denied, deeper were 50% of them. But that's where my kind of knowledge stops about how much gaming has been stopped just by stopping them from onboarding more miners.
It's just so difficult to tell how big the gaming issue is. I think we're going to get more tools to define this kind of information. Last time we tried to put numbers on it, the very next day the deny list was found. So it's hard
That's
to
right. Yeah.
say exactly how big it is. Things change, but yeah, I think there is an issue, and we can work towards improving that. Other manufacturers, big gaming clusters, new hips to stop that kind of gaming. But yeah, it's not a massive deal. As an old hat, and you probably say the same thing, is gaming right now is not a problem compared to how it was in the past.
No, no. I
We've
mean,
had hacks that have stolen millions in days.
yes.
Back when it was $3 a coin, that just goes to show everything.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really good point. Is that there's I forget if it was Meerkat or the other one, the Modesto clusters.
Yeah,
But we look at the deeper got 76,000 HNT over the course of something like 5 months. I think they did that in a day or two. It was like ridiculous
exactly.
amounts. So yeah, gaming is obviously bad. This goes to another point that it's really hard, as far as I can tell, to detect how much gaming is going on in the network. Right? There's some that are very clearly gaming. Right? You see like a smiley face in the middle of the ocean of hotspots. That's probably gaming, right? Or a hexagon or
Hmm.
whatever it is. But if we think about how do we as a community and as in writing, I don't know, a program to detect that, is that becomes pretty hard really quickly. And so there's, as far as I can tell, there's not a really clear way to immediately say like, oh, this is a gaming hotspot or this is not a gaming hotspot, which means that you can't tell how much HNT is being earned by gaming versus non-gaming hotspots.
Yeah, and there's new tools coming to make it a bit easier to kind of show you what hotspots are doing and things. But none of this gaming conversation is being overlooked by Helium. They are busy developing to help improve the situation. It just takes time again, but I think we're going to be in a better place with this soon, with the detection and actual labeling of how big the issue is. It's just takes time.
Yeah, yeah. Matthew Ruck, is there a way to tag the stolen HNT and this tag prevents the stolen HNT from being used to create a validator? And would that be worth it? I don't know. I mean, it's a cool idea.
Don't I don't think HNT's got unique identifier. It's just that you've got a certain amount in your wallet, right? So I don't think we can tag it in any
Huh.
way.
Huh. I'll bet some geek could figure it out. But yeah,
There's probably you could probably trace it and say where it is. I know they've done that in Bitcoin. Well, they can tell if it's dirty Bitcoin or if
yeah,
it's
yeah.
well,
Unknown to this panel.
yeah.
Let's see, Simon M. I know this is off topic, but do you guys really think that light hotspots will be online this month? They're trying to patch things, but nothing seems to work. Let's see, we're at April 11th. I think it's pretty reasonable. It's probably aggressive, but reasonable to have everything kind of worked out by the end of the month. I think this thing of nothing seems to work is like, no, dude, that is not correct. You got to be really careful with the words that you use. When you say nothing seems to work, it may be that your hotspots are not earning as much as you want, or you may be hearing across the internet from all the people who are really upset about their hotspots not working. But when I look at my hotspots, they're working fine. They're doing 2 to 4 times the network average. There's nothing crazy different about my hotspots. Now, maybe that's me being lucky and you being unlucky, if that may be the case. But this idea that nothing seems to work, that's not true. Stop saying that kind of thing.
I think it's a mix of both myself. There are people that just get bad peering. That nothing they would do would solve that. Maybe they need to do 3 reboots, 4 reboots before they get good peers.
Yeah.
And it's just, this light hotspot upgrade's been talked about for what, like a year now? Year and a
I mean,
bit?
it was in the white paper, so yeah.
Yeah. And the idea that, we needed validators, they had to go and write validators, and then they had to optimize validators, and now they've had to write, the whole stack's changing, the whole thing's changing. There's not much left in it other than LoRaWAN, that's the same, but
Yeah.
it's a complete rewrite of how things were done to make it better. And it was, I remember I think we were about 18,000, 20,000 hotspots when the team were like, right, this peer-to-peer stuff is just going to get worse and worse. We need light hotspots. We need validators to do block construction. And we're just realizing that now. So, it's been a long time coming, and I think we're really close now, Being able to go on testnet and look at validators and look at hotspots and see them earning and see them doing well. And the team saying that there was some final changes to make to get them there. I think they're almost there now. Yeah. It's worth the wait.
And also to Simon's point, I mean, I came down on you a little bit hard, dude. Sorry about that. But I think it's difficult for a normal person, and I am in that normal person category, to understand how much technical ability is required to not only understand the system, but to work on it and fix it. And so what we're all a part of and really beneficiaries of, if we're just plugging in a miner and letting it earn, magical money from the sky, is really skilled, hardworking, talented, intelligent people working super hard to solve a problem that no one has ever solved before. And so I expect, not just, I don't expect that this light hotspots thing will fix everything. I think it'll fix this next big challenge, and then we'll have another big challenge. We'll probably have a challenge with the validators. There will probably be something going on there where the validators are going to have to step up their game somehow, and that will be the next big thing. That's a reasonable guess. And just being part of this network and getting HNT for putting a miner in your house, we're kind of taking this risk and saying, okay, I think this thing is pretty cool and a really good idea, but this isn't like a guarantee. This isn't a savings account or a guaranteed return. And so treating it like that can make it a really frustrating experience.
Yeah, and this isn't just like Apple bringing out a new iPhone. This thing can't be stopped, redeveloped, and then started again. Like Frank said, this thing's like an aeroplane in motion, and they're trying to change out the engine.
Yeah.
It's so complex. It just takes time, and sometimes you don't want things rushed, because if it's rushed, then we're just going to end up with more issues than it's worth for moving it. So this needs to be well tested, well planned, and if bugs do come out, we need to give them the time to make sure it's right, so we don't get something that's worse than before.
Yeah. Jeff, USMC, that's some Marine Corps stuff. I like me some Marines. They're pretty reliable. If the people in the system can find, prove, and resolve these issues, I am less likely to believe restricting hotspots' ability to cover over 60 miles is needed. I think what you're saying, Jeff, is you don't want, HIP 58 to go into play? I just disagree with that. I look at what is the purpose of the network? The purpose of the network is to provide coverage for sensors. If you look at the distance an average sensor can transmit and be picked up by another gateway, it's nowhere near 100 miles. It's not even near 100 kilometers. You get some outlier cases, like I've had that paragliding case that we talked about last fall, where I had one sensor transmit to a gateway 80 kilometers away, but that's at 15,000 feet with clear line of sight up in the mountains. Like, that's unreasonable. I think most sensor to gateway distances are 10K or less. So this 100K or whatever the distance is completely reasonable. And it barely penalizes anyone. That's my position.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The limit of what was reasonable for a sensor was 50 kilometers,
50, yeah.
and and they've marked it as 100, so they've doubled it. It wasn't like they were close to what in the real world exists. And that's one big thing that people miss quite a bit as well, is that POC is meant to simulate what sensors are like. That's why we have the same power limit as sensors. We are simulating sensors. This is proof of coverage of what sensors would likely do. So if a sensor can only do 50, there's no point of allowing anyone to do over 100. It's just not reasonable. It's not real world usage of it. And like you say, unless you're up a tower on a mountain, then you're not going to get that kind of distance, or running an 8 dBi antenna on a little sensor like that. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Hey, I did something I've never done before. I banned someone mining my wave just came out and said, like, hey, this is a pure shitcoin. That kind of stuff is going to get banned, at least on this channel. I'm not going to stand for that. If you have a complaint, like, hey, my miner's not working, my helium's not working, I don't understand it, I'm happy to help answer that. If you come on just talking trash, I am going to ban as fast as I can. Yeah, that's my general position. I kind of lost my place there. I got all excited about this thing. Let's see. There's a lot of people. This is my webhead. There's a lot of people shifting hotspots to hexes close or somewhere far away to get higher transmit scale. I have one in a neighboring hex I've never witnessed. Yeah,
there is. No. Go. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, it's one of those things where I look at it, and you could have a hex next door that if it's in a basement and it's poorly placed, you're not going to witness it. That doesn't mean that it's a gaming hotspot. Now, it's one of those things where it's like, I know gaming when I see it. But how do we write a program that identifies that is a much more difficult thing than going through one by one and seeing that stuff. So, yeah, I don't know if that's the comment or question.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? Is it gaming or is it just syncing?
Yeah.
You just can't tell at the moment, Yep. It could be. And yeah, just to say about that as well, that, people marking their hexes off chasing transmit scales are causing a knock-on effect. If you have to mark your hotspot 400 meters away to get a better transmit scale, then think of the person that might turn up in that hex as having to do the same thing, and then it happens again, and happens. And in the end of it, we're ruining it for sensors because we're not actually providing coverage where they say they are.
Yeah.
So your transmit scale doesn't affect your earnings. Don't go chasing transmit scales.
Oh, that's interesting.
Just be accurate with them.
That's interesting because I've always said,
as we grow,
you can be. I think you can assert within 150 meters, no problem, just to protect your privacy. I think that's reasonable. It's not like the way that we would like to see it, but I can't think of a better way to protect privacy and also make sure that it's obvious where location is being provided. So, yeah, that'd be my little hair splitting thing on that. Brad Spilled, this is a great point. So I still think a tie between mappers and gaming reports would be great. I've been right next to a hotspot location with a mapper with no connection to it, but yet it has witnesses in neighbor hexes. Brad, if I remember right, the last time that I looked at this, I was talking with Joey, and this is, 8 months ago. We were having, Joey, we're having lunch up in San Francisco, is that there's real problems with incentivizing this with HNT, and because it ends up having gamers kind of go after the incentive. And there's also real problems with making sure that the mapper is trustworthy. In this case, we're kind of thinking like good people. Is that a good person takes a mapper, ethically good, takes a mapper and goes and locates stuff. But what about a bad person? Why don't they take a mapper through their warehouse of hotspots and map them all and say like, oh yeah, this is where I was, and spoof the whole thing? It's a pretty difficult nut to crack.
Yeah, it really is. As soon as you add financial gain to something, it's just going to be abused, and we just have to think of that. And the Mappers project is an open web endpoint, so anyone could submit fake data. Don't please, but you can just submit anything to it. So we just can't trust that data. So I love the idea of it, and I think Joey was right in that he said we should be finding companies that need to use a network, and it's really important for them to know where their devices are, but they're not interested in the earnings of it. And then we take that data and then we use that for the kind of mapping information. So, because we can trust the people that they need it for the service, but they're not worried about the financial gain from it. And then we can do stuff with that data. It would be much better. Imagine if we had FedEx on board as a customer, and every van had a mapper in it, then they would need it for the system, but we would have such good data to use.
Yeah.
It's brilliant, but
Yeah.
it's a tough one. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it all the time.
Yeah, because you got, is it TrackPack, right? This is the thing. Tell me about that.
Yeah.
John.
Yeah, so we built an app that's asset tracking for Helium. QR code scan and go asset tracking for Helium. That's an all-encompassing solution, but I would love to see secure mappers. I just don't think it's reasonable to do it in a quick time. I think it takes a lot of development, not only products that are unhackable, potted, sealed products, but we would also need some sort of HIP-19-like process to allow people to make them for this.
Yeah. Yep. No, it's big, complicated, crazy problem. Let's. We got 5 minutes, Neil. Let's wrap up with this kind of idea of earnings being inconsistent, which we've talked about before, and it can be. Yeah, it's like we. Let's just give it some more coverage. So John Smith, day-to-day earning is just so inconsistent, and then Summer Buck, doesn't this decline in witness count clearly show that HNT network is lower? This is why earnings are down, combined with more miners on board. I think those are all kind of the around the same thing. Is look, from the beginning, it has been made clear to anyone who read the white paper, which is out there, and I understand if you didn't read it, that's no problem, but it existed. And it exists, is that it was and is known that earnings per hotspot will continually go down in HNT. As more and more miners get added to the network, we split the same size pie. Those pie slices get thinner and thinner. So that is like earnings will go down. If you see earnings going down, that is the sign of a healthy network, right? That's a growing network. That's what that means.
Do you want that to happen?
You do, yeah. And I know that I don't want that to happen personally, right? Because I want to make the most money. But it's also a bigger macro sign that, like, hey, you are on the winning horse right now. I would not jump off. Do whatever you want, but it's a good sign. And then the second piece, John Smith, this day-to-day is so inconsistent, 100%. If you're seeing it inconsistent, that is in line with what is to be expected from the randomization of witnesses. That only 14 hotspots can witness any given beacon. And those 14 are randomly assigned if more than 14 witness it. And so what you should expect to see day to day, because there's not that many beacons going out, there's only basically like 1 point something per hotspot per day, something like that, is you're going to see spiky earnings. One day you'll earn 0.2, the next day you earn 0.1, the next day you earn 0.4, the next day you earn 0.02, like whatever your earnings are. That is totally normal to see spiky earnings. What you really want to be looking at the minimum is 7 days of data. And ideally, you want to be looking at 30 days, but there is a problem there because the network is growing so fast that 30 days from now, you'll be looking at a different data set than you're looking at today. So the big thing is just making sure that your miner is connected, and you can use Neil's tool, Helium Status, which is going away soon.
Yes,
to check that right now and make sure it's good. Yeah, and that's it. Anything to pile on top of that, Neil?
Yeah, I mean, there's been some bad days recently with performance. Like today was a bad day. They've added more seeds and things have started to improve. The other day they had to lower POC timing, and we're going to get days like that. One of the big ones I saw the other day was that we only did 47k HNT instead of the usual 86k. So it just goes to show there are network issues, and with like hotspots, that consistency will return. So, the hotspots get stuck in sync, bad peering, and it just means that they spend a lot of time off. So day to day, it can be so different. But if you look at it over a month, you generally see, it's not declining that much. It's declining in rate with what's being added to the network, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Ripping, dude. Well, I think that that's most of the questions. We can probably hit one or two more. Do you see anything that you wanna answer?
Not that I remember off the top of my head.
Okay, I see Tim Laws is saying I get 150 miles on sensors, but I'm on a 10,000 foot mountain. Yeah, dude, I get it. Like, it can be done. If you look at, like, one of the coolest YouTube channels was it Andreas Spiess, the guy with the Swiss accent?
Yeah, he's great.
He's rad, and he's I forget what the record is. It's like 350 miles or 370 miles from sensor to gateway. So I don't think anyone is saying it can't be done. what we're saying is that in order for a healthy network to exist and to block off a significant gaming vector, which would be hotspots witnessing each other from over 100 miles away, it's a better thing for the network to have that distance cutoff that affects 98% of 98% of hotspots kind of positively and 2% negatively. That's the compromise. So it's not a perfect thing. And Tim, maybe your what sounds like awesome deployment on top of a 10,000 foot mountain is going to get penalized a little bit. But again, I think Evan had written in the HIP itself, like some really small number of hotspots earn 50% or more of their earnings from hotspots more than 50K away. Like Tim's going to get hosed a little bit, and then the rest of us are going to be much better, and there's going to be less gaming on the network. So
I just want to talk about one comment I saw earlier was that he was saying, is anyone talking to the mock from Deeper? They want people to wait for refunds. We're pretty sure they're not, right? I'm pretty sure they're not. And they're not going to get out of this ban. They're not suddenly going to turn it off for a week and allow all these people to onboard and disable it again. So I wouldn't hold out for being allowed on.
No, if we think of that in the sense of what would that take, is that Deeper would probably have to present evidence that they could responsibly onboard new hotspots and keep the security of the network viable. And in that hearing, they basically said, we don't have that ability. And so to think that suddenly the mock is going to change the decision without a change in the data is, it doesn't line up with that. So.
Oh, and the other point I wanted to raise as well was just because this 100 km limit's coming in place doesn't mean that sensor data will suddenly not be able to do 100 kilometers. If you were doing 100 kilometers sending data transfer before, you still will be able to. It's only for POP transactions that this is happening for. So you can still get that data. That data can still be used. It's just that you can't earn from hotspot to hotspot POC. So it's not going to stop coverage from being as good as it was.
Right. Yeah, it's only going to improve the general health of the network for most of the people. Ripping. Neil, thanks a ton for coming on and
no worries.
helping me explain this stuff and doing such a good job. I really appreciate everything you do for the network. I'm really excited to see where the track pack thing goes. That's awesome. And that's track pack.
Come real soon.
Yeah, TRACKPAC.io.
Yeah, that's the one. Coming really soon. The app's pretty much ready. We're just getting it reviewed through the app stores. So I'll make sure I'll send you a load and we can do a chat about it.
Yeah. We'll track them up. And then for those of you who've been on, if you want to do more stuff with Gristle King, I'm going to give you my little pitch now. So if you want to sign off and not hear the pitch after the rest of that great info, you can. But we got a couple things. We got courses to help you understand Helium for $150, I think it is, 149 there's the Helium basic course. And that takes you through all of this stuff. And what I found is that once people have taken it, they understand what's going on and it really decreases their stress because they know the deal, right? They know like why witness or earnings are so variable. They know that the antenna doesn't really matter. Like they start knowing what's going on in Helium, and that makes you a better overall Helium operator. And we also have the Gristle Crew, which is a weekly call that is like this, where it's me and then usually another expert. Neil's been on there. Tomorrow is the next call. We've got a tax expert, Matt Sorensen, who I'm sure have seen on YouTube if you've ever done any kind of crypto financial searching. He's coming on to talk about tax implications. Really excited to share that info with the Gristle Crew. And I think that's $50 a month or $49 a month right now. So that seems to me to be pretty reasonable. And those are super useful assets or tools for you if you want to learn more about Helium. So thanks for sitting through that, Neil.
Hey, no worry. You got to eat, man. You got to eat.
Yeah, that's it. All right, guys. Thanks so much for coming on. Rock on. We'll see you next time. Lights.